All right, I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. We will start with introduction.
Everett, Region 2 Associate Environmental Analyst.
Ron Bush, CNC Specialist. Tyler Knapp, Program Analyst, Brian Cunningham, Region 4A. Region 3,
Jim Gordon, CNC Specialist.
Erica.
Erica Goodman, voting member.
Dave.
Dave Grass, voting member.
Karen.
Darren Hickling, voting member.
Okay, we've got, is Scott with you?
Yes, Scott's here in Albany.
Then I'll turn it over to you and you can take over.
Okay, well, we'll do introductions, I guess, around the table here, and then I'll do some roll call.
Ben Luskin, Region 5 AEA.
Bethany Bisdu, Executive Director of the State Soil and Water Conservation Committee.
Brian Steinmiller, Assistant Director for the Division of Land and Water Resources at the Department of Agriculture and Markets.
Scott Ryan, voting member.
Tim Clark, engineer for the state committee.
Tim Sheldon, Excelsior Fellow here at Ag Markets.
Melissa Gordon, Administrative Assistant.
Okay, moving to roll call of our state committee staff. Greg Albrecht.
Good morning, Bethany. Good morning, everybody. This is Greg Albrecht, State Committee, Ag and Markets, AIM Coordinator.
All right. Jennifer Clifford. Victor DiGiacomo.
Morning, Victor Giacomo, Regional Field Staff for Western New York, Region 1.
Warren Przorski. Okay, so moving on to our advisory members. I'll just run through the list. If you're on the line, please come off of mute and introduce yourself. Ag and Markets.
I will claim that spot. I'm here. Yep.
Thank you. Cornell Cooperative Extension.
Morning, Dan Welch, Executive Director, Cornell Cooperative Extension, Cayuga County.
Good morning, Dan. How about Cornell Cales?
Jared Popley, New York State Water Resource Institute.
Good morning, Jared. CDEA.
Good morning, Caitlin Stewart, President.
Good morning, Caitlin. How about DEC?
William Capola here from New York State DEC.
Good morning. Department of Health? How about Department of State?
Kate Black here. Stephanie may be joining a little late.
Here, I actually made it.
Oh.
Stephanie's here.
Well, good morning to both of you.
Morning.
How about SUNY ESF? And NRCS.
Hi, Paula Bagley's here.
Yes, my name is Mike Buelich. I'm with Greene County Soil and Water. I can only voice in on mobile because of the flooding yesterday. My internet is down.
Okay, thank you. Well, I appreciate you being able to call in and participate in the meeting today.
Thanks.
That concludes our list of advisory members. I do want to welcome all of our soil and water conservation districts, staff, district board members, and any members of the public who have dialed in today to participate in the State Soil and Water Conservation Committee. Please feel free to enter your name and affiliation in the chat for our records. Just as a reminder, before we move on from this agenda item, please keep your lines on mute just to limit some of the background noise if possible. But remember, if you want to come off and have a comment or question, Add to the discussion, remember to unmute. Thank you, Dale. Next agenda item.
Thanks, everyone. Next on the agenda is correspondence and staff update. Bethany?
Oh, real quick, we need to review and approve the minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, one ahead of that. Skip line. Any additions or corrections to last month's minutes, please?
Voting member.
Please.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
go to voting. Darren?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you very much. Now back to where I started a minute ago. Correspondence, staff, Bethany?
Thanks, Dale. We did not receive any correspondence to present to the state committee today. But for a staff update, I will pass the mic over to Brian.
Thank you, Bethany. I'd like to give a quick staff update on Division of Land and Water Resources, which provides staff support and services to the Soil and Water Conservation Committee. And yep.
He's not get back to you. He's on that meeting right now. But he doesn't know how to.
Okay, thank you. So I know this is December, so I have a lot of district board members join in today, and performance measure purposes. I remember the good old days of having a really packed house, packed room with a lot of board members in December, but it's great to have everybody here. Okay, so staff update, that's what you asked me to give, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we've been working really hard with the department's human resources to recruit for 2 staff members within the division. One that would provide program management to the Agnon Point source and related water quality programming, Bethany's backfill. Another for the Northern New York position that would assist on Article 7, 10, 94C renewable energy projects in the North Country. So that would be slated for agricultural protection. We were able to conduct a series of interviews for both positions, both off of the civil service list of associate environmental analysts. And we're awfully close to wrapping that up, where we'll be completing interviews this week for the Northern New York position. And then we'll be able to move forward with recommendations for filling those positions to HR, hopefully by the end of this week or just after the new year. So fingers crossed, but we may be able to build staff, both backfill and one new position within the division. So I'm sure by the next time we meet, we'll have more updates on that. Questions, comments?
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is Agnon Point source with Bethany and Tyler.
All right, Tyler, let me pull up your report here. Bear with me. Okay. You can kick things off.
Sounds good. Apologize now. Definitely fighting in close neighborhood. I'll stay over here. Sorry. So Agnon Point, 8 active rounds, round 29, all the contracts are pending at this point. But I'm just gonna kind of go along the bottom line per usual. 366 total contracts across all of those rounds, and those total just over $122 million. Round 29 contracts, there's 33 of those, and they were all pending. Almost $14 million in total funds there. Total active contracts, there's 160 of those, and that totals almost $56 million. Completed contracts, we have 163, and those total just about $51 million.
To add to that program status update, which was very comprehensive, I will share a bit of good news in that late last week, I got an email from our Division of Fiscal Management letting me know that the Office of the State Comptroller has approved the procurement record for round 29, which is a huge step forward. And that is significant in that now we are able to start moving contracts down to our Division of Fiscal Management so that they can start being processed and hopefully be executed in a efficient time frame. So I just wanted to let folks, voting members and districts on the line know that we are going to be moving forward with the round 29 contracts. At this point, I know ADAs and myself are still working to review and approve some plans of work that were submitted by districts. So, once those are all completed, we'll just keep moving forward with the contracts. Any other questions on the Ag non-point source program status? I do not have any amendments to present today. So that would, if there aren't any other questions, that concludes the Ag non-point source program report.
Thanks, Bethany, Brian, Tyler. Next on the agenda is the Resilient Farming Program with Jennifer and Tyler.
Okay, perfect. I'll kick things off real quick. Jason, am I heard better now? Hopefully.
It's a little.
Oops, sorry about that.
It was just a little choppy there, for whatever reason.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty close to the mic, so hopefully everybody can hear me. So CRF, we have 6 active rounds, similar to Ag non-point, round 7. They're all pending contracts at this point. There are a total number, there's 199 total contracts across all those rounds, roughly $34 million across all of those for funding, 60 pending contracts for round 7, and that's almost $16 million of funds there. 78 active contracts, totaling $13 million, and completed contracts were at 42. There were a couple of closeouts over the course of the last month, so those were updated, and those funds total just about $3.5 million.
Any questions for Tyler?
Thanks, Tyler. So a quick update on round 7. The plan of work memo was sent out, and the plan of work webinar will be this Thursday. That will be recorded for those that aren't able to attend live, and plan of works are due February 1st for round 7. So that's moving forward. Round 8. The RFP is also moving forward. We've been having some good discussions and feedback from districts about some pathways to use both the state and federal funding that we have available for round 8. So that's moving forward, and I think next meeting we'll have more information about that round 8 RFP moving closer to approval. I do have a couple amendments this meeting. There are 3 amendments. Oh, thank you, Bethany.
Yeah.
all from Cayuga County, rounds 4, 5, and 5. I'm kind of mentioning them together because they actually are all for cover and flare project, and the reason they're all up for no cost time extension right now is the farm would like to bid out these projects together for a cost and time savings, and to really make it most efficient for the farm and district to complete these projects. So they're asking for these time extensions, all in the same farm, working on 3 different projects on cover and flares. We can go through them one at a time, Dale, if you'd like to do that for approval. I just wanted to mention them all together because they are related.
Yeah, I want to vote on them one at a time.
Okay, thank you. So the first one is Cayuga County contract C012127 round 4. They're asking for a time extension to 12/31/24.
Any comments, PJ?
No, I just support consideration. That's all I have to support.
Anyone else have any questions or comments on them? Motion to approve, please.
Oh,
So moved.
hang on one second, Dale, there was a question.
Okay.
One of,
Let's start at 19.
one of the 3 has had a time extension, the other 2 have not.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll go to voting. Darren?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you very much. We'll go to the second one.
Great, thank you. The second one is Cayuga County, contract C012288 for round 5. It's a time extension to 6/30/2025.
PJ?
Excuse me, nothing on this one, just to reiterate what Jennifer said for all 3 of these. This is an attempt to get a cost savings effort underway so that the same company hopefully can come up and do all 3 of them at once.
Okay, excellent. Now, does anyone else have any questions or comments? Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
And second.
Second.
Thank you. Go to voting. Darren?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you very much. Third one.
The third one is Cayuga County, contract C012290, round 5. This is a time extension to 6/30/2025 for the same set of projects.
Same thing. Any comment, PJ?
No, nothing at this time, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
And seconded.
Second.
Thank you. Go to voting. Darren?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
And Scott?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you very much. Anything else on CRF, Jennifer?
No, that's all I had to report. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is state aid. Performance measures with Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Dale. Let's get our point pulled up here.
Yeah, here, honey. We're just shifting computers. Your notes, maybe go up to. There's gonna be. Where is that carbon somewhere? Okay,
Can you still hear us, Bethany?
Yes, sorry, we're trying to put it on presenter mode. Bear with us.
It wasn't on our end. Thank you.
Alt F5.
Show you
I'll
go to display settings. Swap.
I think you're getting it. Yeah, but now they see everything on there as well. Right, I'm assuming.
What about all those keys?
That's looking good out here.
Yeah, all right. All right. Sorry about that. We're gonna.
It's not really for me to judge, is it?
Move forward here. Okay, so presenting on the state aid survey results, 2024 performance measures that we'll be recommending to the voting members today. So just a little refresher, a few months ago, we did a state aid forum that was well attended virtually by districts to go over the 2024 performance measure standards that we were proposing and recommending at the time. We had quite a few changes that we were proposing to all the different performance measures, primarily performance measure 1, but each of them had additional requirements, or we are also proposing kind of reworking performance measure 3 and 5 to kind of blend the partnership questions together. We got a lot of feedback at that forum, a lot of emails afterwards. It was also a topic of conversation at NYACD and the admin conference, a lot of conversations there and emails, conversations after those events as well. But we also put out this survey a few weeks back to get as much input as we could from districts, just to make sure we were considering all the factors and concerns that were out there based on what we were proposing. So as a result, it's just a breakdown of who filled this out. Mostly managers. There were some techs, secretaries, board members that also filled this out. There was a way to filter the results. I went in and I looked at just the managers' results as well, and pretty much all the managers' answers were right in line with everything else you're going to see in this presentation. There was really not much of a difference between the group as a whole and just the managers themselves. So most of this presentation is just going to be the graphs and the results that we received back. There's more beyond this, but this presentation is pretty much just focused at the performance measures, since that's the topic at hand today. So the current performance measures are where they need to be. You know, most folks agreed with this, strongly agreed or neutral. There was a few that disagreed. I would assume that meant that they thought the performance measures were too stringent already. Follow-up question, which is this pie chart, kind of does confirm that that there are a few folks out there that think that too much is currently required, but at the same time, there's 6 folks that answered this that think that the performance measures need strengthening. So overall, I think everybody is happy where things are. You know, that's what everybody's been used to for the last 10 plus years, more than that, I think, since performance measures have really had any changes to them. At the same time as, you know, the amount of money that districts have received from performance measures has gone up by, you know, $190,000. Next question on the survey was continued increases in state aid funds over the last 9 years should result in higher performance measure requirements. Quite a few people agreed or were kind of on the fence with this, I guess, as answering neutral. So I think this acknowledges that although districts don't necessarily want performance measures to change, I think they realize that, with the increases in money and that nothing has really changed over the last decade or more, maybe something does need to change. As I went through the comments to this, there were quite a few folks that either were worried if things didn't change, maybe the money would go away, or the flexibility to do with the money would change, and maybe it wouldn't be as flexible as it has been since the law was changed around the end of 18, beginning of 2019, that is. But overall, a lot of folks that I think were in that neutral category were kind of just acknowledged in their comments. Yeah, we get it. If it has to increase, it has to increase. For the most part, a lot of folks, it wasn't a too heavy of a lift, I guess I'll say. Are you in favor of new additional questions? You can see this on this pie chart here. A lot of folks said no, some say it depends, and some said it yes. I found it interesting because the next question to that is this one. Pretty much an identical chart. The only difference was the yes and the depends flipped. The no's were almost identical. This question actually is taking into account if you would like a question added to take account of your board member participation at the county level. So this is something that we weren't proposing back at the forum. This question all came out of districts' feedback. The fact that so many board members are already participating at the local level, whether it's district programs or other county functions, that sort of thing, county boards. So they wanted to take account of that. So I just found it interesting that it kind of flopped that yes and depends just based on one question, being a little bit more specific to that question. And I didn't put the graph on here, but in addition or follow up to that county question, we asked if we added that in, how many board members should have to meet that requirement? And 59% of respondents said that either the majority of the board or the whole board should have to meet that requirement. So I found that a little interesting too, that most folks were acknowledging that the majority or all of the board should have to meet that requirement, and only 41% were saying 3 people or less should have to meet that requirement. Because I think that question, if it was added in the future, would kind of be similar to what 1G is right now. Have X amount of board members meet that requirement for their county each year. How many of your board members are invested in the district and that's cut off and its mission? So most, acknowledge that they feel like all of the board or the majority of the board are invested, in the district, which is great to see. There's some answers that only answered a couple or one. Obviously, we'd like to see improvement there. We want to make sure that at least the majority of the board members are vested in the district and in the mission behind it. These two charts here are also, I found pretty interesting. I'm not normally a graph chart guy, but I guess when Tyler started sending me all these stuff and I started analyzing it, I had to make connections here. But so 2 different questions, but as you can see, the answers or the amount of folks that answered each question are different, but the pattern is identical. They go up and down the exact same way. So the first one, how many of your board members serve on other boards? I think I was not expecting this many. I think I was expecting 2 or 3 because all the legislators or supervisors on each district board, I would assume, are sitting on other boards. But the fact that the highest answer were that 5 folks are sitting on other boards, I got it on. Quite a few.
Can I just ask folks to please make sure to mute their lines? Thank you.
And then the second one, how many of your board members are otherwise employed? Same thing, the majority of board members are employed still full-time. So I think this just shows that, board members are busy, their time is precious, they're still working, they're serving on other boards other than just the district boards, but they're committed to serving the district amongst the other other organizations. Travel is always a big feedback, right? So this just acknowledges, I think, what we already knew. You know, it's hard for board members to travel. Like we just said, they're committed to different organizations, their jobs, families. So just kind of reiterates the fact that it's hard for most district board members to travel to different events, probably especially if it's, you know, outside of their home county. How many board meetings should districts have per year? Currently, we require 8 in performance measures. We proposed upping it to 9. That's kind of why the cutoff is where it is on this question. But the majority of the respondents said that we should, 9 to 12 should be where the amount of meetings we should be having. There were 7 folks that said we should be having 12 the entire year. So 1% of respondents said we should be in that 9 to 12 plus range on this. And with that, with this one, just could your district hold 9+ board meetings a year? And the majority said yes. I think there was like 8 districts that said they couldn't meet 9, which, analyzing the data from past reports over the last handful of years, even through COVID, there's only a couple districts each year that met that 8 meeting mark, like right on the dot. So I would assume that number is probably actually lower based on the data that we have in-house. How long should new board members training exemption be? So we do have an exemption that if you have board members appointed with the last couple months of the year, they are exempt from having their regular board member training along with the district law training. So as long as they have it in the following year, then they're all set. We proposed at the forum that it go to 4 months, so essentially September 1st. This was the answers we got back. Probably more is better, I guess, for a longer exemption. That's why 5 months is the highest. But 3 months was the second highest, which I found interesting that it wasn't 4 months. But I think what we're looking at for the recommendation today is that we keep it at that 4 months as proposed, kind of an average between these answers that we received from the districts and back. And just to touch on training as a whole, there was a few other questions that took into account staff training, which all the respondents answered that they felt that staff training was adequate, above par. Then there was 10 districts that responded that director training was below where it needed to be. So maybe, whether that's more input by the AEAs and state committee or what needs to be done there, not quite sure at this point. There wasn't really any specifics given in the comments on that, but a little bit more effort, I guess, to make sure that everybody feels their director training is where it needs to be. This is on the audits. So primarily we conduct what type of audit? So over 55% was an internal audit, and then third party, and then county audits. Kind of comparing that with this question is, does the board use a checklist for the internal audit? At first I was a little bit worried about the answer to all these no's that were on this side, that we're not using any sort of checklist. But then reading through the comments, digging a little deeper, I think primarily those no's are because anybody that answered that they conduct a third-party audit every year just answered no to that second question. So I'm sure there are a few people out there that are probably not using a checklist, and we need to make sure that we are. But I don't think it's bad as maybe it looks on here. A few other comments in the comments section that I received for folks that were using something other than an OSC checklist was that we're using an OSC checklist plus, so they're adding additional questions to their checklist, or we're kind of using an OSC minus, it's primarily the OSC checklist, but things, I guess, don't apply or they don't find them relevant. So they've kind of taken them off and just made their own. So I think, any of those situations, we're still looking at pretty good results in the fact that at least we're using some sort of checklist that's guided by OSC. And I think, again, the AEAs will just have to keep communicating that to folks, like, as we hear there's internal audits being done every year, let's keep handing out the OSC checklist. We did send it out to the statewide listserv after the forum just to make sure that everybody had a copy of it. So hopefully it's easily attainable. I think it's on SharePoint as well, so that folks can use it when they're doing their audits each year. We did have the item that we were going to require the OSC checklist be used, what we proposed at the forum, but we changed that. We're not recommending that we require it, but based on this, does the board review and approve the audit regardless of who conducts it? Primarily is yes, which is great, but I think we want to turn those no's sometimes into yeses as well. So regardless if you're doing an internal, third-party, county audit, district staff should make sure that that's in front of their board and they review it and they see it. I know in my region, there's a lot of folks that have third-party audits done, and as part of the process of what you're paying for, those third-party private sector folks will come in and do a full presentation. Sometimes it's a PowerPoint, sometimes it's just flipping through the report itself in paper. But take advantage of that, make sure the board is aware of what the results of that audit is and that they're actually approving it. So just a little note that we're going to be adding into the performance measure worksheet that says, that you completed an annual audit and it's been reviewed and approved by the district board. So kind of just a minor change there. So district policies. So the way this one worked is that there was a checkbox for each policy, and that each respondent just needed to check the box that they had these policies. And now this chart is the only one that I did filter and include just for managers, because I felt like the managers were probably the ones that were going to know this answer the best, and if they needed to look up if they had the policy or not, they would know. So there was 44 managers who responded to the survey. Currently, on performance measures, we require the first 5 that are on here: attendance, HR, financial, procurement, and FOIL. As you can see, there's only one of those that 44 managers answered they had all those policies. So not sure what's exactly going on there, because in my mind, all 5 of those should be 44 out of 44. So whether they're actually not having, that means one of 2 things. Either we're answering questions on performance measures that you have it and you really don't, or you should have checked it here and you didn't. But I think we got to make sure that we have all those policies in place. The next 5 on this list, sexual harassment, code of ethics, equal opportunity, and data breach, and workplace violence protection, those ones are actually all required by New York State. So same thing. We didn't have it on performance measures. Currently, only sexual harassment was answered by 44 out of 44 managers that they had it, where all of those should technically be 44 out of 44. So something we need to focus on, I think, in this next round of performance measures for 2024. So we're recommending that we add all of those additional policies onto the performance measure worksheet for this next round of performance measures, just to make sure everybody's aware and can try to make sure they have those policies in place by the end of 2024. All right, moving on. How many board members should be required to meet the performance measure 1 requirement? So this is specifically referring to 1G, the state, regional, national meetings or functions. So this is traditionally the hardest performance measure for districts to meet as a whole. It requires more of the board members to travel many times to get to these meetings if there's not something they can find virtual. We are encouraging more districts, if they already have board members attending meetings that may not currently appear on our list as approved meetings, but their board members are already going to them because it's something associated with their job or just an interest outside of the district that they have. Submit a special request to us to get it approved ahead of time, early in the year if possible, just to make sure that it's easier to accomplish this performance measure if possible. But the question, how many district board members should meet this requirement? Currently, the requirement is 3 across the board. Whether you have a 5-member board or a 7-member board, the requirement is 3. Interesting enough, the top answer was the majority, followed by 3, and then so on. So one consideration, well, let me back up. So in the forum, we were proposing that we increase this to all board members. So 5-member boards, 7-member boards, everybody would have to meet this requirement. Based on the answers and the feedback that we've got, we're looking to back that down and really look to the state committee voting members today and see what their thoughts are on this, whether we leave it at 3 across the board or do we put it to a majority, so that for all 5-member boards, this would stay the same at 3, but for 7-member boards, it would go up to 4 members need to meet this requirement. So that's something that we can get to in a moment. I'm going to pull up the performance measure worksheet, and we can kind of go through that a little bit more once we get through the slides, unless Dale or anybody would rather have that discussion at this point. So moving on, the last few here, so we're moving off of performance measure 1. Performance measure 2, it just asked if the standard requirement should be increased as we were proposing. Overwhelmingly, the answer was no. I don't think we expected really anything different, but we're just going to reevaluate this in the future, in 2024 at future meetings for state aid and performance measures to see if maybe this needs to be, changed for 2025. And if we can add additional options and choices for districts to more easily meet this requirement if we are going to increase the standard. So I put performance measure 3 and 5 on the same page because we were talking about restructuring these to have the leveraging funds just in 3 and partnerships more on performance measure 5. We've got a lot of feedback on this. A lot of districts were saying it was a good idea. As we see here, there were quite a few that said no. A lot of the no's were actually tied to the follow-up question, because currently the way performance measure 3 works is you can answer 4 out of 7 questions. And districts were worried that if we took some of those questions away from 3 and dumped them into 5, how many questions were we going to require? Are we still going to require 4? I don't think we would, but that's why a lot of districts answered no, was because they were concerned if it was, 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 4, maybe they wouldn't be able to meet that. So that was the big concern and why they answered no to the chart on the left there. So I think a little more evaluation is needed for that in 2024 to look into the future to see how we exactly structure that going forward. For performance measure 3, we are looking to add an 8th option, so it would actually be 4 out of 8 for this year, to also include applying for the CDA training funds to deliver a technical education workshop or program. So those are CDA funds that they have out of their 4-hour course money that they open up to districts to apply for to put on training or programs that would be open or benefit districts across the entire state. Performance measure 4, same as 2. We're just going to reevaluate that and look to see what additional options we can add. Lots of ideas here because this is state natural resource conservation programs, but a lot of questions and ideas about federal programs, more local programs, and how we can account for that for some of the districts that have a hard time meeting this just because they're not as ag focused or they just don't normally participate in as many state programs. It's just not, like I said, not their focus, not as a big part of their mission. How should proposed performance measures changes be implemented? So overwhelmingly, it was slowly phased in. Some were kind of on the fence, some were not at all, and only a small fraction said all at once. So I think overall, that's what we're looking to do here. We're looking at making some small changes for this year, and then reevaluating and probably looking at tweaking and making some additional changes for 2025, just to kind of fall in with these results of the survey of what the districts put forward, and to give state committee a little bit more time to analyze all the responses that came in and have additional conversations, like I said, at a future forum or a future SPAC meeting or something of that nature. What just happened?
I don't know.
I hit the space bar and it went to whatever
You
this
just
thing
double
was.
click back on there.
Oh, there we go.
Fun trick.
Yeah, fun trick. We don't know how it happened. Which
Glad we got it back.
Yeah. Which performance measures are the most difficult for you to meet? Not surprisingly, performance measure 1 is definitely at the top. You'll see on the right-hand side, that column is the average score for each one. So districts could rank, 1 through 5, and those were the average scores overall. Interesting in a lot of the comments, not a lot, but some of the comments, going back to 1G, the state regional meetings, districts said that, performance measure 1 as a whole isn't that difficult. It's 1G specifically that makes performance measure 1 difficult. So having our regular meetings, trainings, district law, organizational meetings, audits, policies, that sort of stuff is just kind of regular business. It's that 1G regional meetings that makes performance measure 1 more difficult. But as you can see, just even if that is the case for a lot of districts, it definitely makes PM1 float to the top. 3, 2, and 4 are all pretty close together there. And then 5, it drops off. And some of the comments on 5 were the fact that, well, if I can meet 3 with the partnerships in 3, I can pretty much meet 5. So it's not as difficult to accomplish that overall. So this one, don't stare at it too long, but this is just asking what districts thought of each performance measure. So on the top where it says C, that's the current percentage rate assigned to each performance measure. P was proposed. We just left at the same at the time of the survey. And then you can see what the different charts show for responses. Most of them are pretty clear. This didn't limit how many times a district could click on the same thing. So districts could technically click on like 10% for every answer if they wanted to. And I think we saw that with a couple of them, mostly like 5. But overall, I think they did a pretty good job at filling this out. And it resulted in, some clearer answers as far as maybe the percentages for each performance measure needed to shift a little bit one way or another. And that's the recommendations. That's how my recommendations were put together between these answers and then, the answers to the previous chart about which performance measures were the most difficult to answer. So these are what they have been for the last number of years. They changed during COVID. If you remember, we zeroed out and shifted percentages around a little bit. But 2019 and then this year, 2023, these are the performance measured percentages. And then based on the numbers and feedback we've gotten, these ones for 2024 in red there are what we're looking at changing them to. So PM1, the most difficult, leaving that at 10%, and then shifting, number 2, just bumping it up a little bit. Number 3 is bumping it down by the same amount. Same thing with 4 and 5, just shifting PM4 down a little bit and increasing PM5 because of, again, the averages that districts answered, along with the fact that PM5, we were told that was the easiest one to accomplish. So with that, that's the end of that presentation. Like I said, there's more that we can kind of dig out of the survey and the answers that we got. But overall, this was the most relevant information to performance measures, looking at, the changes for 2024. So with that, I will pull up.
Just hit stop sharing. I find that's easiest.
Okay.
And then if you go back to share, it should have the Word document up. Right there.
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, so Dale, I'm gonna pull up the worksheet itself, the performance measure worksheet, as proposed now. Yeah, so this is. Yeah, no. So this is just what we have on, the docket as proposed, to the voting members right now. So again, like I said, we had a lot more changes proposed, and then we tweaked them based on the feedback that we got and future discussions that are needed with districts. But like I said, the audit just added a note in there about making sure that is reviewed and approved by the district board. We've added several policies to this to be required. Performance measure 1G, that's why it says option 1, option 2, kind of at the discussion of the board, the voting members, whether they think we should leave it at 3 or if we should change it to a majority, so that for 7-member boards, they would be required to have 4 directors attend that. And other than that, Dale, the only other, well, 2 changes, I guess, is the fact that we're looking at giving a longer timeline for board member training exemption to September 1st, there in red. And obviously the percentages for each performance measure are there in red as well. And for performance measure 3, to add in that 8th option, which again, hopefully makes it, a little bit easier maybe for districts to meet that performance measure, because we would ask for 4 out of 8 instead of 4 out of 7 options. So Dale, kind of wherever you want to take it from here, I guess. Let me know if there's any questions.
Well, what I'm looking for is for the districts that are online with us today, unmute your microphone and give us some comments, particularly in the 1G area where we are talking about board members, and whether it's 3 or a majority. We have districts online. I'd like to hear what your comments.
This is Kelly from Monroe County. I'm okay with that. And from Ben's presentation, it looks like most districts were okay with the majority doing that. So it doesn't seem like it's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
This is Erin from Seneca. I'm okay with that. We have a pretty involved board. But one of my recommendations was, instead of making them national and regional meetings, which takes up a lot of time from our board members, have them be more regional or local meetings that are impactful on their decision making on a local level for soil and water boards. Like local farm bureau meetings, like Grange meetings, those kind of things that don't take up as much time. But still are keeping them involved and informed.
From Ulster County Soil and Water, I think we're more comfortable with option 1. It's really hard to get board members to participate in regional trainings, and at least 3 of them are practical farmers. So I vote for option 1. Not that I have a vote.
Your feedback is important.
Yeah, this Darren Hickling. I'm on our county board as well, and it's we have a very involved board, but it's with some of the meetings having to travel for some of the meetings. It's not that they don't want to go. It's just that a lot of the board members just don't have time. But if there was more local stuff that would qualify, I'd be a little bit more apt to go for it. But having to travel, take a whole day to go to a meeting in Albany or halfway across the state is pretty tough.
This is Pete from Schoharie County. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat where, 3 of my board members are active farmers, and I know I hear a lot When I asked them to go to Casanova or Panyan, that, it's difficult to get somebody to do their chores for them. Two are active dairy farmers and one has a heifer farm, and they just don't have the help to fill in those gaps. So it is really tough to get them to go to a meeting that's an hour plus away.
This is Caitlin. I appreciate that the state committee has included PRISM meetings as an option, and this has been for a number of years. These PRISM meetings are partnerships for regional invasive species management. They take place monthly with an online option. So if there are directors in Hamilton County that we need to fulfill this TM requirement, I'm always sending them that PRISM link. That online option is really nice. And to echo what a lot of other conservation district staff have said, I think it's great that the state committee has included this other option. A lot of these choices do not fit well for Hamilton County directors. We have a lot of municipal staff that serve our board. The other option will allow me to put forth a request to my AEA, something like attending a town meeting or an association of town meeting where items like sediment erosion control, harmful algal blooms are discussed is very, very positive. Just my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Others? Okay, my question, Ben, Bethany, and Brian. The other category, how wide can that be expanded?
Sorry, Dale, can you repeat that?
If they have other meetings they can attend, how wide to make that requirement, how wide can that be expanded to?
Oh, the other meetings part? Yeah, so that's our special request form that any district can send in to us throughout the year. It just has to be in and approved by December 31st of each year. It doesn't have to be ahead of the meeting. They can send it after the fact. We usually get a flurry of them this time of year because districts are trying to meet their requirement and they know that, X, Y, and Z board members went to other meetings and they're trying to see, what counted. Be good to have that handled ahead of the year, but we normally get around 13 or so of those special requests from districts a year. Sometimes it's a little more. This year, after the forum, it was definitely more. So that prompted districts to send those in. We have no really set guidelines on what those can or cannot be, other than it needs to be at least 2 counties, right? It cannot be a standalone function within your county to meet that 1G because it has to be at least 2 to be considered regional. Beyond that, as long as it's something that you can, kind of paint the picture or justify that it meets your district's mission, it doesn't have to be ag focused. It could be environmental. It could be operational. Then it really could meet that requirement. Something I'm going to try to do a little bit better this year is as those requests come in is to post them or get them on some sort of spreadsheet that we could try to keep updated, like on SharePoint, so that districts can kind of be aware of what has already been approved. And in many cases, they can just use them if they've already been approved. I may still require that they notify me or send me something as proof that a board member attended it. But that way they don't have to go through the entire process and it can be a little bit easier for everyone else.
Thanks, Ben. Just to confirm that 2 or more counties, right? That's kind of what we use as a benchmark, because in the regulation that accompanies this program, and it was renewed in 2018, Jennifer?
Yeah.
Okay. It does say participation at state, regional, and national meetings and functions. So that is why we've drawn the line on single, county type meetings where at least to meet the regional definition, it has to be 1 or 2. I'm correct on that, right, Ben?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to confirm that by way of the rules and regulations that accompany this program, that's kind of, where we have to set that line as far as the types of meetings.
I think, staying regional, I think when the districts are dealing with meetings that are going to be regional, perhaps they would be able to convince the presenters to put it online so that more of their farm members would be able to participate from home. I mean, I fully understand the problem with farmers getting away from the farm, especially a smaller farm, borderline impossible. So we need to work at any way possible to make it easier for that participation to take place. But I do believe we still need the participation. Comments? Any other part of the performance measures, any district want to comment on?
I would just say along the lines of these remote meetings, Caitlin mentioned the PRISM meetings, but I know DEC has been offering a lot of their regional meetings online as well. So we just recently had our Southwest Lake Ontario Great Lakes Action Agenda meeting, and they did those throughout the region. In different Southwest, Central. So there are a lot of opportunities now for those online meetings.
Others? Anyone want to discuss the percentage changes on it? Hearing the comments, I personally believe that we should keep it at 3, just because farmer participation is critical, and getting farmers to be able to get to the meetings. Just even though you have a majority, I can understand that if we lose the farmer participation, it becomes very difficult.
Oh.
In our little area.
Okay, if you have 3.
There's a comment here from Scott.
I was just kind of thinking to myself, but being only 10%, could it be on a sliding scale where, okay, if you have 3, you get so much percentage, and if you get more directors involved, it raises it up?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So we brought that up, not in regards to this one, but I think it was PM3, we brought that up at the forum. One, that would be harder for us to calculate and track, I think. But 2, districts were very much not in favor of that. They wanted to just make sure that it was the same across the board by, all districts, and that, one district, just because they were bigger or whatever the case might be, didn't have an advantage over, smaller districts. But that is a thought we kind of had, and again, we kind of have kept it on the docket as something to consider for the future. But that sort of question didn't really even make it into the survey, just because the feedback we got in the forum was a resounding no. We don't want to see that at all. So that's kind of.
I think that's because it's easier for districts also to budget out what their expectations would be.
Yeah, it's harder to budget something like that, right? Because you don't know, you could be a district that only had, say 3 board members at 10, but if the rest of the state had 5 or more, you don't really know how much that's going to be. So it is hard to budget for it. Like you said, it is only 10%, so you'd be working within the confinements of that 10%, but it could affect you still. I mean, that's $20,000, so I don't know how high or low that would end up going.
The law also indicates that it's to be distributed equally among eligible.
Right, because it's technically not committed.
Right, but that means that anybody who meets the measure would get equal distribution.
Right.
So that could also be why, because I know the scaling discussion has come up over the years, why we've resisted looking into that, but.
Well, how many districts have 7 members? I was gonna look it up.
24.
Is it that many?
Yeah.
Yep, 24 with 7, 33 with 5, and then New York City has 9.
Any members, what do you think? Voting members?
I'm inclined to keep it at 3.
Scott, what say you?
I'm in favor of the 3, just for the fact of keeping, getting members to be involved is difficult at times.
Erica? Or Dave?
That sounds good. I mentioned hearing the discussion. Sounds like that makes sense.
Dave, are you in favor of maintaining 3 members to attend or participate in a state, regional, or national meeting or function?
Yeah.
All right.
When you look at the other, some of the other parts, the state required policies, can I'd be looking for a motion to approve performance measures, changes to 2024.
Yeah, I mean, we've made a note that overwhelmingly the voting members, think that 1G should start or should stay at 3 folks for each board to meet that. And if there's really no other discussion or anything or changes to be made on what is, on the screen, now we'd be looking for a motion to approve them as is with 1G staying at the 3. Yep.
Excellent. Go ahead.
Do we need 2 motions to approve the changes and then the percentages?
Yeah, we will do that. We'll do a motion with the changes, with 3 being a requirement for participation, 3 board members. So, any other discussion on that before we get to that? Did I get a motion then to approve the changes with 3 being the board member participation?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll go to voting. Darren?
Aye.
Dave? Erica?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you. Now, we will do a motion on the percentage changes, recommended percentage changes as presented by Ben. Can I get a motion on that? And a second?
Second.
Excellent. Thank you. Go to voting. Darren?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you. Anything further on this, Ben?
No, Dale, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Thank you for all the districts and the comments too.
Okay.
Next on the agenda is plan of works. Bethany?
Yes, so we are going to be seeking a motion from the state committee for the approval of the 2024 Soil and Water Conservation District annual plans of work. Just as a recap reminder to folks, the annual plans of work are developed each year by Soil and Water Conservation Districts for the following year and must be submitted to their regional coordinators by November 1st. For this year, all of the annual plans of work were submitted on time by that deadline, so that is really good news. But these annual plans of work serve as a roadmap for soil and water conservation districts. They set and establish programs and activities explain the district activities for the upcoming year. These plans also serve to identify roles and responsibilities for the staff and board of directors for that particular district, and allow the district to manage risk and liability and also measure the district's performance throughout the year. Each regional staff receives these plans from the soil and water districts and will review them based on checklists that identify the minimum performance measures, and as well as they review these plans to assess risk management elements. And each of our regional coordinators will work with soil and water conservation districts to suggest changes or share ideas on how the plan might be improved, or any of that sort of thing. Once our regional AEAs are good with the plans and have worked with the districts will take the annual plans of work to their local soil and water conservation district board for approval. And I guess the final step with these plans is to get approval from the State Soil and Water Conservation Committee. So I believe what I need to do is run down the list of soil and water districts that we have received 2024 plans of work from. And when I'm done reading that list, I will ask if there's any questions or follow-up, and then we will need a motion from the state committee to approve these plans of work. I'm sorry, say that again.
Oh, just want to make sure that the committee knows that AEAs have recommended approval for all these plans.
Yes. Oh, very good point. Thank you, Brian. So all of the plans that the districts that I'm going to list off, the AEAs do recommend approval of their 2024 plans of work. So here we go. Albany, Allegheny, Broome, Cattaraugus, Cayuga, Chautauqua, Chemung, Shenango, Clinton, Columbia, Cortland, Delaware, Dutchess, Erie, Essex, Franklin, Fulton, Genesee, Greene, Hamilton, Herkimer, Jefferson, Lewis, Livingston, Madison, Monroe, Montgomery, Nassau, New York City, Niagara, Oneida, Onondaga, Ontario, Orange, Orleans, Oswego, Otsego, Putnam, Rensselaer, Rockland, St. Lawrence, Saratoga, Schenectady, Schoharie, Schuyler, Seneca, Steuben, Suffolk, Sullivan, Tioga, Tompkins, Ulster, Warren, Washington, Wayne, Westchester, Wyoming, and Yates. That is all 58 soil and water conservation districts. Are there any questions at this time?
Motion to approve the annual plan of works, please.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, we'll go to voting. Darren?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you very much, everyone. Next on our agenda is the voting and advisory reports.
Thank you. Just attending some board meetings recently and working on some closeouts. So other than that, just making sure that any of the board members who attended today, if you're attending in behalf of performance measures, please make sure that you send an email to your district manager to let them know you attended today's meeting so they can get credit for your attendance here for performance measures. Other than that, that's all I have now. Thank you.
Brian Bush here. So just a quick update. I missed the last meeting and I wasn't sure if it was covered, but wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Ron Thorne from Wayne County for achieving ADM planner certification. We've got several folks kind of rounding the corner on their certification, and then next meeting, we hope to have some updated material for you guys to look at and consider regarding our CNP quality assurance program, which is kind of a complement program that looks at working with planners that are already certified and keeping up to date with guidelines, standards, and specs for those plans. So that should be the next meeting, hopefully.
Great, thanks. Wiley?
Real quick, I'll just give a plug. I'll be working on, so stay tuned for the next meeting, hopefully, or one of the next couple meetings. I'll be working on an annual review of all the programs, similar to what I did this past year. So we'll be putting that together for the next meeting.
Thanks, Ryan Cunningham. Pretty busy in Region 4, winding down AEM year 17, a lot of Tier 4 project closeouts. It's a final push for many. Many are done and they're working on closing paperwork out. So visiting some in the field as time permits while we're closing out a lot of Ag non-point and CRF grants as well. Along those lines, a lot of assistance with AEM round 18 and a new term coming up. A lot of questions, a lot of planning going on for projects to be upcoming the next 2 years. So kind of working with districts along the way on that. There's been some division meetings, a lot of board meetings, a lot of discussion on new and expanded programs like the expansion of CRF, a lot of grant opportunities, trying to get some districts involved that maybe haven't been so involved in the past. So kind of clearing the way for folks to kind of understand more, for board members to understand what's going on out here and the new opportunities that are coming. And then I guess lastly, in the Champlain area, there's been a lot of work with the basin program. About half of my counties in Region 4 are in the Lake Champlain watershed. A lot of active grants, assisting with the technical advisory committee up there, and kind of seeing how much of the federal dollars we can move into the Champlain Basin on the New York side. So a lot of success there as well. So thank you.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on a lot of what the other AEAs have already said, but also to say that the CREP annual progress report is being composed right now for submission to USDA at the end of the month. In an email a couple of weeks ago, I had put, I think yesterday as a deadline for districts who partner with USDA implementation of that program to send me success stories or suggestions to improve the program. The deadline was yesterday, but I just wanted to say, you know, it's not a very hard deadline. Do have something that you want to contribute, photographs, particularly success stories, go ahead and send them my way, and I'll make sure they find their way into them.
Erica, you have anything to report?
Nothing on my end. Thanks, Tim.
Jared?
No, not too much. Just had Farm Bureau's state annual meeting a couple weeks ago that went well. So that's about it.
Thank you. Dave, you got anything to report?
No, nothing.
I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Dale. Ben, do you want to go first?
Sure. Same as a lot of what the other guys said. Some site visits, some board meetings, a few closeouts that just started to trickle in, and some AEM closeout work coming down the pipe. State aid wise, couple additional notes. Six of the 7 state aid reports went out a couple weeks ago to districts, got those out a little bit sooner than normal, so hopefully you can get a jump on those. I actually have received several already, so districts have been filling those out and submitting them. The one that we were waiting on was the annual report of the treasurer. We were waiting on OSC to make the updates to that. I just got that back from them this morning, so my goal is to have that out to districts and posted to SharePoint by the end of today. And then the Part B requests that were proposed for 2024 projects, I just got through all of those. So those should be sent down the hall for payment by fiscal by the end of the week, and I will also be sending out the districts their approval memos by the end of the week as well. I think that's about it, Dale.
All right, thanks, Ben. I will go briefly just to mention that last Friday on the 15th, State Committee, we had our first State Committee program, let me start again. We had our first State Programs Advisory Committee, which, as I presented back in November, is a new subcommittee that that we're starting up between state committee staff and soil and water conservation districts to really dive in and discuss our state committee programs with, the eligible applicants. And also, we hope to use this platform to discuss potentially new program ideas and topics of that nature. One of the items, I guess, that we kind of came to agreement on would be potential meeting frequency. So going forward, the advisory committee is planning to meet on an every other month basis or as needed. So we agreed that we could meet more frequently or less frequently as agenda topics and as the need presents itself. So it was a really good first meeting. We had great attendance from the Soil and Water Conservation District partners. We were able to spend most of the meeting discussing round 8 of the Climate Resilient Farming Program, and we're able to address a lot of the questions that were out there from districts regarding that and the utilization of climate smart commodities funding. We also touched on, introduced a potential new program to the group, and more to come on that one in the future. That is all I have. Brian?
I'm going to save my voice for the ethics training because there's a lot of words on these slides. So I'm good.
Jennifer?
I don't have anything else. Thank you.
I know IACD will be attending Farm Bureau States of New York on March 4th. Legislative Day will be Tuesday, March 5th. We'll have a briefing at the Hampton Inn on Ulinsky Drive Monday evening at 7:30. Blanche has a block of rooms reserved under the code NYA for a discounted rate. She is currently working on the legislative booklet to hand out to the legislators. She's still waiting for some districts to send in projects for that. The deadline is tomorrow. And that's it.
Thank you.
Great.
Tim?
Not much. I just want to mention there's Pro Dairy sponsored engineering training in Cornell tomorrow that I'll be attending with a couple of you out there. So looking forward to that, and I'll have a summary of that for the staff as I usually do. That's it.
Tim?
No updates.
Thank you. Melissa?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
All right, so we'll shift to some of the other staff that might be on the call. Greg, do you have anything to share today?
Thanks. Just to relay something Ryan started there with the AIM base round 18 starting on January 1st. So looking forward to that. And we'll send an email about this when it's all up there, but we will have all the program materials in the AIM 18 SharePoint site up there before January 1st. So districts can continue work in developing tracking time and whatnot for technical assistance, but then also developing their proposals for year 4 cost share projects, which really looking forward to those. Of course, they're not due till May 1st. You can get them in anytime, but really looking forward to those. As it seems like that this program in our suite of programs works as a nice complement to CRF and Ag Non-Point Source for smaller but important projects, and maybe starter projects to develop new relationships with new farmers, and as things ramp up and they can become good partners and maybe later on participate in our competitive programs. So maybe a good starting place for small programs, and that's certainly what AIM 16 or small projects. That's certainly what AIM 16 showed, and looks to be the same with AIM 17 from what projects are ongoing. Aside from that, I just thank everybody's time and wish everybody a happy holiday.
Thank you, Greg. Victor, Do you have anything to share with the group?
Thanks, Bethany. The update for Region 1 sounds very similar to other areas of the state. A lot of the same stuff going on in my area as well. I'll just also add that in December, the Genesee River Coalition of Districts met, and they are having ongoing discussions with DEC and their working group to establish a plan of work going forward for the next couple of years. So happy to be a part of those conversations. Also in December, the Western New York Soil Health Alliance convened their annual meeting and training in Stafford, New York. Attendance was great, about 50 or 60 individuals, plus another 15 on the phone. So great to see all those faces learning about soil health. Thank you.
Thanks, Victor. So moving to the advisory members, CCE. Maybe we lost him.
Don't have anything for today. Just happy holidays and happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you, Dan. How about Cornell Cales? Anything to report today?
Hey, Bethany. Nothing right now. Maybe next time, though. Thank you.
Thank you. CDEA.
Hi, Bethany. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, quite a bit on the CDEA front. Starting off with our New York State Erosion and Sediment Control Certification Program. The committee finalized a practice problem workbook that is available to people who attend the review course. The review course was held in Auburn on November 15th and 16th. The course was very well attended by 26 people, and the committee is thrilled to report that 15 people took the exam on November 17th at Cayuga County Soil and Water. At our last CDEA meeting, we had a lively discussion regarding DEC permits. Division Representative Sean Murphy led an excellent discussion, and districts brought forward concerns, including delays in the DEC permit approval, how culvert reviews differ from DEC region to region, and also the feasibility of bank full design. I am working to put out a survey to collect more information from districts, and look forward to working with Bethany on a future meeting and a solutions to these problems, as well as addressing what is working well. I also want to thank Brian for providing some excellent information during that discussion. Bond Act. I created a survey and only 10 conservation districts completed the survey. I shared the results with Bethany. This was to target areas that districts could utilize Bond Act funding, get a feel for where we should target Bond Act funds, and I look forward to working with Bethany and the state committee on how to support district projects and programs as we learn more about how the Bond Act will unfold. The state committee's SPAC, or State Programs Advisory Committee. Bethany, you have to hold a meeting at SPAC with a concert.
I know, we talked about that at the office. We'll plan that for the future, absolutely.
Amazing, amazing. I
Could at least go to
compiled
the tree
district
nursery next
feedback
to
and I compiled district feedback and shared it with Bethany in advance of her meeting last Friday. District response to this committee is enthusiastic, and we very much look forward to the next meeting. On behalf of all conservation districts, I want to thank the state committee, especially Bethany, for this opportunity for an open dialogue to solve problems and discuss challenges, as well as what is working in a positive manner. The 2024 Water Quality Symposium will be held March 12th through 15th at the DoubleTree in East Syracuse. Chairperson Jessica Anderson is finalizing the registration packet. And as always, I want to thank the state committee staff members for assisting with organizing as well as instructing courses. I will complete and send out our December CDEA newsletter before the end of the year. The deadline for the February edition is Friday, February 2nd. As always, State Committee, Bethany, AEAs, partners, if you have any information that you would like me to include, please email me and I will make sure that your news is published in our February edition. Save the date for our next CDEA meeting. We will meet January 23rd through 24th at the Doubletree Hotel in East Syracuse, and I will be following up with agenda and meeting materials. As always, the State Committee is more than welcome to join us. On behalf of CDEA and all conservation districts, I want to thank every single one of the State Committee employees for an incredibly productive year. We value and appreciate your continued support and commitment to conservation districts, and we really look forward to hitting the ground running with you in 2024. Bethany, thank you very much.
Thank you, Caitlin. That was a really wonderful report. And, you know, I don't think I'm speaking for myself, but I think we're all very much looking forward to continuing on with the advisory committee and working more with districts to increase that communication. And also just to echo that last point, you know, I appreciate all the staff, the state committee, but we also appreciate everything that soil and water conservation districts are doing out there in the field. Thank you. How about DEC?
Nothing to share today. Thank you, though.
Thank you. Have we had any partners from Department of Health join? Department of State?
Just do a quick summary of some of the projects we just recently awarded. We just made announcements for our CFA round for EPF funding. So related to water quality and watershed management and planning, we awarded 4 grants for watershed planning, one in Brant Lake, which is Upper Hudson River watershed. They are doing a watershed management plan, kind of a phase 2 for the Oneida Lake 9-element plan for some additional funding. Then Atisco Lake watershed is doing an update to their watershed plan, not an INE, just a watershed plan. And then Otsego Lake is also doing a 9-element plan, and we have been working with them prior to their grant submission to help them prepare for what they may need. And then additionally, we awarded 6 grants for implementation, ranging from some sediment and restoration studies and planning, a floodplain restoration design, some water quality protection manual project looking at further refining our model local laws to better reflect conditions in Finger Lakes, some engineering studies for upgrades of outlet gates in both Canandaigua and Tuca. And I think that was all of them. Yes.
Thanks, Kate. This is Stephanie. I'll just give a little update as well. Just wanted to let you know that I'm actually leaving Department of State, so this may be potentially my last meeting with you all, but I'm actually coming over to Ag and Markets to work with the Agricultural Development Division, working with Kelly Young and Emily Cook. So I'm excited that while I'm leaving this group, I'll still be still be involved and hopefully working with all of you in a different capacity. So I'm excited to do that, and just want to say that I've really appreciated all the work that you all have done on this committee. I've been able to be involved in the last, gosh, 17, 18 years while I've been at Department of State. So bittersweet for me to leave Department of State, but excited to come over to Ag and Market. So Kate will be stepping in, and she has been for the last several years, as I haven't been able to spend as much time as I have hoped, but she is going to do great in keeping DOS involved in the committee. And so just want to say thank you all, and I'll see some of you soon, maybe. And have a great holiday too. I'll be starting in the beginning of January.
Ag and Markets is very lucky.
Yes, we are. Congratulations, Stephanie. And bittersweet to see you go in your role with Department of State, but I know that Kate will pick up that mantle and has already, and looking forward to seeing you in the halls here and working with you in Ag and Markets.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. Thank you. Thanks.
All right, thank you guys for those reports. Our last advisory member on the list I have is NRCS. Paula is on the line, but unable to she doesn't have speaking capabilities, so she did send me a chat just to let me know that she does not have anything to report today for the committee. So I just want to give conservation districts on the line the opportunity to come off of mute and share or report out anything that you wish to share with the state committee. Hearing none, are there any members of the public who are on the line that would like to, oh, I'm sorry, before we do that, I see a hand raised. Amanda Barber.
Sorry, I was a little slow on getting the unmute. First, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity and say that I was very interested in the results of the performance measures survey, and I hope that we'll continue to have a dialogue about the performance measures. One of the things that sort of struck me was that it might be a time to sort of take a giant step back and look at the metrics that we're using to evaluate, performance, and see if there's something that we're missing, if there's some other indicator of performance, particularly in the board area, that we could add or substitute for something that we're currently using. So I hope that that's a dialogue that we can have over the coming few months. The other thing I just wanted to mention from a Cortland County perspective is that we are hiring a district engineer. We have our job announcement out, and so if you know any good engineer, I think we're going to pay pretty well to hopefully get a well-qualified person in here. So thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Amanda. That's a very exciting opportunity for the district. Are there any members of the public who are on the line that would like to share a report with the state committee? Hearing none, there was a question added to the chat. I'm not sure, Dan Welch, if you have any insight. There was a question about the possible termination of the CCE North Country Regional Ag Team. Is there any updates or information to share with regard to that?
I don't have any direct information other than I know several of the counties participating have their boards voted to no longer participate in the team, but I don't have any idea of the how that impacts the entire regional agriculture team there, but I will get back to everyone and have information to share in January.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, Dale, that concludes our reports.
Thank you, everybody. I have one thing to report. Lauren Ray, engineer for Crow Dairy, environmental sustainability, engineer and energy engineer, came out to our farm Friday with Peter Wright. We are part of a study they're doing quarterly on covers and flares, where they run monitoring equipment around the lagoon and a methane camera to the leaks. And they're trying to, because we have a 12-year-old cover and flare and a 1-year-old cover and flare. And so they're trying to get a handle on how long these things last without having to deal with a massive amount of leaks and what are the leaks. We also had discussion on the lack of installers of covers and flares in the state with what we're getting now on more and more installations needed. And her and Peter talked about going to do some contact work on finding people who could, or companies that could install flares. Apparently there are companies that will install covers without flares. So they're going to do some research there, and it's maybe something we should be reaching out to Lauren and Peter on that to determine, is there a way we can help move that forward to find more opportunities for getting covers and flares installed. There's definitely a lack because the South Carolina company isn't going to be able to do more than 4 a summer here unless they do some massive expansion. And there are other companies that do liners and everything else that could expand into that if they saw demand, I believe. Anything else, anyone? Next meeting is proposed for January 16th. Voting members, what do you think? It may be a very short meeting. If our agenda is very short, we have to deal with, I believe, CRF. Okay.
At some point, yeah. I don't know if it'll be ready for January, but at some point it will have to be reviewed and approved by the state committee.
If it's, we have something of importance that has to be done in January, we could maybe even do an online meeting if it has to be brief or can be brief. If we don't have anything of importance that is ready that has to be done, I would prefer not to have a meeting. Historically, we hadn't, but if it's important, we need to.
Well, I guess I'll leave that up to the voting members, but I think January would be a good time to address some of the organizational items that need to be done, excuse me, each year for the state committee. That is something that we can discuss at that meeting as well. As Tyler mentioned, we like to do a kind of a year recap to show what we've been able to accomplish through our programs and get more in depth into that. Certainly that could be on the agenda for January as well.
Members, January 16th, Darren?
Looks good so far for me.
Erica?
Works for me.
Dave?
Yep.
Scott?
I can try and make it work.
Okay, we'll set our next meeting date, January 16th. If something comes up different, we will be in touch with everyone.
Yes, thank you.
How do you want to handle the next part, Brian?
Well, so I'll just say, so the next part of our agenda is to conduct an ethics training for the state committee voting members. Folks, I believe, are welcome to stay on the line if you really are so interested, but you are also welcome to sign off. And I'll just say, if you are choosing to sign off, hope you have a happy holiday. Stay safe, be well. We'll see you in the new year. We'll give maybe folks 5-minute break before we dive into exciting ethics. Thank you all, everyone.
Thank you very much. Mike Buelich signing off from Greene County Soil and Water. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you.
All right, folks.
Do you need
I
me
don't
in
know,
here?
I wasn't paying attention to the screen. Have
My
folks
ethics are great.
returned? Oh, Dave, are you, okay.
I think you just
Okay, perfect. Didn't want you to try to run away from ethics training.
All right, shall I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Well, I think we got.
So, thank you all and those that have stuck around as well. And this course is required by Executive Law Section 94 to be delivered live so that participants have an opportunity to ask questions in real time. The trainer, which is me, does not need to have personal expertise in state ethics, but there is a good amount of speaker notes here and some examples that go through, and if there's any questions or things of particular scenarios that come up, I can certainly record them and try to get answers for you. But after the training is complete today, you all should receive a certificate of completion, documents that you met the training requirement. And I know it's in a follow-up slide, but this is a new requirement so that every other year this training will be live. And then on the off year, there will be a refresher course that you can take through the Commission on Ethics and Lobbying in Government's website. All right, let's launch right in. Next slide, please. Okay, so this course provides an overview of ethics laws, regulations that apply to those in state service. Your agency may have more restrictive ethics policies than the state ethics law. We will review today this is one reason why it's a good idea to seek advice from your agency's ethics officer. For the committee, that ethics officer is the executive director, but also has the ability to work with the department's ethics officer, who is an attorney appointed into that position in our counsel's office. All applicable ethics law, regulations, advisory opinions, policies, and guidance documents within the Commission's jurisdiction can be found at ethics.ny.gov. So what is the purpose of ethics training? Go ahead.
Slide? Okay.
Yeah. So this is a topics overview slide here. And essentially, this topic, we will be talking about a commission overview, which includes jurisdiction, guidance, enforcement, and training. Financial disclosure, which will include an overview, deadlines, privacy concerns, and extensions. The Code of Ethics for Public Officers Law, Section 74, which is standards of conduct, reverse two-year bar, negotiation of future employment, and Civil Service Law, Section 107, politics in the workplace. Brief summary of the changes to the new Ethics Commission include conflicts of interest and how to avoid them, important information for the future, avoiding politics in the workplace. So let's take a look at an overview of the new Commission on Ethics. Okay, thank you. The commission was established by the Ethics Commission Reform Act of 2022 to oversee and regulate ethics and lobbying in New York State and began operations on July 8th, 2022. 11 members with appointees from the governor's office and the state legislature, with new appointments from the Office of the State Comptroller and the Office of the Attorney General. There's an independent review committee that's comprised of law school deans that confirm commission nominees for each appointing authority. The commission's power to act is by simple majority vote. The commission is subject to FOIL, which is the Freedom of Information Law, and Open Meetings Law. Thank you. Although the commission and its predecessor agencies is often described as a watchdog agency, investigation and enforcement is only one of its core functions. The commission also serves as an important advisory function for the regulated community. The key functions of the commission are advice and guidance, investigation and enforcement, training and education, ethics and lobbying disclosure. So let's review those core functions briefly. Advice and guidance. A prime part of the commission mission is to provide advice and guidance. One of the primary functions of the commission is to offer advice and guidance to the regulated communities under its jurisdiction. And I should have pointed out right in the beginning slide, this particular training is specific to unpaid or BDM officers of state boards, councils, and commissions. So that is the State Soil and Water Conservation Committee. So I just wanted to clarify that there are different training modules for agency staff and others. Okay, so again, the primary function, one of the primary functions of the commission is to offer advice and guidance to the regulated communities under its jurisdiction, for which the Soil and Water Committee is one. There is an Attorney of the Day program that offers free confidential guidance on state ethics laws. And again, if there are questions on today's presentation and scenarios or thoughts you might have, this would be a really good resource for you, right here up on the screen. If you call the commission attorneys, you'll be able to get a legal advisory opinion on your situation. Next slide. There are two types of advisory opinions. There's a formal opinion and an informal opinion. Most of the time, you'll receive an informal opinion that deals with a narrow, specific set of circumstances. They are confidential and issued by the commission's staff attorneys based on prior precedent. The commission provides confidential guidance by phone and email. If your situation is unique, it may require a formal advisory opinion to address your circumstances. A formal advisory opinion is issued by the commissioners on the matters of first impression. These opinions are public documents with identifying information redacted. Every formal advisory opinion is posted on the commission's website. These opinions set precedent for others in the future. Now let's look at the core functions of the commission is best known for. Okay, your agency ethics officer is a primary source of advice and guidance for questions about your obligations under both ethics law and agency policies. Each state agency is empowered to establish ethics policies that are more restrictive than what is required by the public officer's law material that is covered in today's training. So your ethics officer is your first resource for further information. And every state, as I said before, every state agency has an ethics officer, including the state committee. And One thing that isn't listed on the trainer notes here, but is that our ethics officer will maintain the training records. So we'll work with Mike, who did this previously, in order for this training to get sent in through the commission, so you all get credit for it. Okay. Investigation and enforcement. Commission also has responsibility for investigations and enforcement. Let's talk about those next. What do you need to know? While we hope you never find yourself in the situation, your rights are preserved on an investigatory process. Enforcement proceedings are confidential until there is a finding or a settlement against the subject. Notice to the subject is not required in the early phases before the commission issues a 15-day letter that notifies you of an investigation. You'll be given an opportunity to respond to those allegations. Thank you. Penalties for violations. Violations of the Code of Ethics in Public Officers Law, Section 74, may carry civil penalties of up to $10,000 plus the value of any gifts, compensation, or benefit received as a result of the violation, except for standards F and H, which have no civil penalty. The Commission is now, however, empowered to recommend and refer for agency discipline, including suspension and termination, any violation of the Civil Service Law, Section 107, and the Public Officer Law, including 74F and H. Violations of the financial disclosure provision, which is Public Officer Law 73A, incurs a penalty up to $40,000. Violations of Civil Service Law 107 also incurs a penalty up to $40,000. Your agency is also empowered to impose their own penalties, including fines and termination of employment or employees who violate the ethics laws. Civil penalties can be substantial, so seek guidance from your ethics officer or the commission if you have any questions about these aspects of public officers law. Your agency can impose consequences that are even more punitive than what the law allows. To avoid this outcome, there is an ethics training requirement. So next slide. This is one of the commission's core functions. So the purpose of ethics training is to raise awareness, is to prevent ethical violations, and to help ensure compliance. The ethics training requirements for those in state service changed in July of 2022, which is why we're offering this today. Next. Pursuant to the new Executive Law, Section 94, all new officers and employees shall complete this live ethics training course within 90 days of appointment or employment and shall retake this live course every other year thereafter. These classes are required to be live, which means giving a participant an opportunity to ask questions or have a discussion in real time. The law also requires state employees to complete an online ethics refresher class in the years when you're not attending this live class. This course will provide an update of any changes in applicable laws, regulations, or policies. And this course is expected to be available in 2023. So that's where we are now, and I believe it is. Another core function of the agency is to disclose of certain state officers and employees' financial background. Next slide, please. Perfect, thank you. So financial disclosure statements contains financial and professional information about FDS filers, in which committee voting members are as state policymakers, and the filer's spouse or domestic partner. The purpose of the FDS is to provide transparency and prevent conflicts of interest. It is a publicly available record containing financial and professional information about the FDS filer and the filer's spouse or domestic partner. Reporting for domestic partners is a change to the filing requirement from 2022 legislation. The purpose of the FDS, as I mentioned before, is to provide transparency and prevent conflicts of interest. Who is required to file? You're in good company. Approximately 30,000 people in New York State are designated as FDS filers. They are policymakers designated by agency, including unpaid per diem members of boards, councils, and commissions, such as the state committee. Employees who exceed an income threshold. This would be a CSEA salary grade 24, called threshold filers. any elected official or candidate, and some political party shares. What do you have to report on your FDS? What is disclosed? Basically all the many ways we obligate ourselves financially. Since the purpose of the FDS is transparency in order to avoid conflicts of interest, the form asks for many details of your finances. The FDS provides transparency regarding how your connections with the private sector may create conflicts of interest with your public service. Transparency is an important part of public service. Things to consider in financial disclosure. Even though you serve on a volunteer basis, it is still important that your service does not create any conflicts of interest between your private sector, employment, or investments and your service to the state. The public has a right to know that your service does not personally enrich yourself or others. So things to consider, again, private sector individuals serving on state boards may have more complicated financial circumstances to report than many state employees. If you're uncertain about how to respond to any questions on your annual FDS, please contact the Commission Filing Specialist. I know in the past I've had to, or they've had to contact me with questions, and they're very helpful. They're definitely a great resource. When is the FDS due? Most state employees and officials will have an annual filing date of May 15th. This is also the deadline if you want to request an extension for filing an FDS. When you first become an FDS filer, you have 30 days to file for the previous year. Because FDS are public documents, this sometimes raises privacy concerns.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
When can you start filing that, like, as of the first of the year?
Yeah,
Or-
when you get an email from the commission.
So you're prompted by
Yes,
email.
yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so look out for those. I know we also send out reminders to all of you. And those of us who file for the agency as policymakers or over the income threshold also get a reminder from our ethics attorney. Since the commission has changed and the laws governing has changed, I'm not sure exactly when that email comes out. Generally, you're given a pretty good amount of time. Yeah. And for those of you who have already done an FDS, unless this changes with the new requirements, your last year's submission automatically populates. So you only have to update the changes from one year to the next. So that makes it a lot easier. Okay.
I already did that.
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's good. So privacy concerns, what you should know. If an FDS is requested, the name of any minor child is automatically redacted, home addresses are redacted, and specific location of real property is obscured. The commission redacts the name of any minor child from the copy of the FDS that is made publicly available. Okay, it says to review the slide, and then it gives you speaker notes, so I guess we're good there. There are other means to keep your personal information private. Options available regarding disclosure. An FDS filer can make a request to get an extension for filing. Request must be made by the filing deadline of 5/15. Redact specific information from the FDS copy made publicly available. Seek a limited exemption for some questions regarding the spouse or minor child. These requests are granted under limited circumstances. It's important to file your FDS in a timely manner. There are consequences if you don't. Next slide, please. What if I don't file on time? If you fail to file your FDS, or if you file a deficient FDS by either not answering a question or failing to respond to a question with the required specificity, the commission will notify you. Once notified, you then have 15 days to comply or correct your filing. If you fail to respond, the commission will send you and your appointing authority a notice of delinquency that advises you of fees or penalties. Notices of delinquency are made available for public inspection, kept in the filer's personnel file. If you fail to remedy your filing, you may be subject to a civil penalty and possible criminal referral. Not exactly sure how you complete an FDS without every question, because it won't allow you to submit it. So there is a bit of a fail-safe there, you know, if you do happen to miss a question on the FDS. NODs are also posted on the commission's website for everybody to see. If you have any questions or difficulties filing the FDS before the deadline, again, please contact the commission for assistance. Are there any questions about financial disclosure statements I might be able to answer?
You already answered mine.
Okay. Next slide, please.
You need a break.
Okay. Is everybody else in here? Code of Ethics. Public Officers Law, Section 74. This is one of the most important laws we'll cover today. It forms the foundation of the ethics laws and focuses on helping you as a state officer to navigate through potential ethical pitfalls. This will help you identify and address potential conflicts of interest. We'll talk about guiding principles, to whom it applies, standards of ethical conduct with examples. So let's get started. What is the Code of Ethics? The Code of Ethics will help you address conflicts of interest when performing your state duties. Whenever we think of professional conduct in state service, we always refer to the Code of Ethics and ask if a potential conflict of interest exists, especially with respect to areas of concern such as gifts and outside activities. The Code of Ethics embodies the guiding principle of impartiality, confidentiality, stewardship of state resources, and integrity. Who is subject to the Code of Ethics? To whom does it apply? It applies to everyone, including agencies, departments, divisions, boards, and commissions, including unpaid and per diem officers and members. Officers and employees of closely affiliated corporations listed here as well. Legislative members and employees. And I think we have it. Next slide, please. Here we'll look at what the law actually says. This is the general rule, Public Officers Law, Section 74(2). New York State officers and employees, members of the legislature or legislative employees shall not, quote, have any interest, financial or otherwise, direct or indirect, or engage in any business or transaction or professional activity or incur any obligation of any nature which is in substantial conflict with the proper discharge of his or her duties in the public interest. General rule, you may not use your position for personal benefit. This requires us to examine activities in context of substantial conflicts between public duties and personal interests. Again, a personal interest can be for the benefit of someone else, like a friend or a family, not just yourself. Besides losing the public trust, violations of the codes of ethics carry penalties. Next slide. Civil penalty amount. Violations of the standard of conduct may result in civil penalties of up to $10,000 in the value of any gift, compensation, or benefit received as a result of the violation. In addition to civil penalties, each agency is empowered to impose disciplinary action, which may include fines, wage garnishment, or termination. Let's look at the 9 standards of conduct. Standard A, impartiality standard. Our first standard focuses on the guiding principle of impartiality and independence of judgment when performing your state job. You serve on a board that oversees a contract with a private sector vendor. As a representative of the state, you are responsible for making sure the vendor is adhering to your board's contract. The vendor offers you a part-time position on a completely different project that does not involve your board. Question, can you pursue this outside employment? So what do we think? Can we accept the job?
Are you asking
No.
for an actual answer or a rhetorical question?
Yeah, yeah, we could.
Okay.
I was about to read the answer, but go ahead, Erica.
No. Please continue.
Okay. So yeah, these next few slides do have examples and then active questions that you can answer, or you can wait for me to provide the answer. That's fine too. But the answer here is no. Even though the new position is for a different project, accepting the job would create the appearance of a conflict of interest between your duties on the oversight board and your private financial interest by accepting a paycheck from a vendor you oversee. The next standard relates to confidentiality. Standard B. You cannot accept employment or engage in any business or professional activity which will require you to disclose confidential information that you have gained as a result of your state position. You cannot disclose confidential information you have gained as a result of your state position to benefit either yourself or someone else. It is best to talk to your ethics officer to determine what information is confidential according to your state position. Standards B and C really focuses on the guiding principle of confidentiality and knowing what you can and cannot disclose with respect to your state job. This varies by agency. It's important to know what is considered confidential. Let's look at the next standard, please. Okay, standard D, unwarranted privileges, is about not receiving unwarranted or undeserved privileges or using state resources for your own private business or other compensated non-governmental uses. So you are a member of the Empire State Plaza Performing Arts Center, which recently hired a contractor to install new carpeting in the lobby. The contractor offered a personal discount for home carpet installation to thank the board member for the contract. This is an example of obtaining an improper privilege based on your state position. It's wrong, standard D. Let's look at the next standard. Standard E. You cannot participate in a transaction as a representative of the state with a business entity in which you may have a direct or indirect financial interest that conflicts with the proper discharge of your official duties. So an example, you serve as a member of the Council of Arts on the Arts, which considers grants to arts organizations. You may not participate in a vote to offer a grant for a performing arts venue where your spouse works. Here you can see your spouse outside employment may create the impression that you might be unduly influenced in the grant offer process. Thank you. Standard G, financial conflicts. You must abstain from making personal investments in enterprises that you have reason to believe may be directly involved in workplace decisions you may make, which would create a substantial conflict between your duty and the public interest and your private interests. So as an example, you serve as a commissioner on the Gaming Commission. You are also a part owner of a local craft brewery that is seeking a contract to provide their product to a restaurant that is located within a casino. You must recuse yourself from commission business involving this casino and recuse yourself from decisions regarding this contract by the brewery to remedy the conflict of interest. Only by stepping aside from involvement on both sides of this business transaction can the conflict be remedied. All right, great time to talk about recusals. We are pretty familiar with those here. What is a recusal? It means to remove oneself from participation, including discussions, deliberation, and votes to avoid a conflict of interest. This is different from abstention, right? A recusal here, if you're in the room, means you leave the room. If you're on the WebEx, means that you leave the WebEx and you come back when that part of the agenda is over. It's also a good idea to consult with your agency's ethics officer or reach out to the commission's attorney of the day for confidential guidance on recusals. So let's look at an example, shall we? Hello, look at this one. Advisory Opinion 0309 addresses recusals for board members and provides a good example when that might be necessary. County Soil and Water District seeks grant funding from a state committee on soil and water. In this opinion, the commission requires a voting member of the state committee to disclose that he or she was also a district board member and to recuse themselves from any vote involving a grant application from a district whose board he or she serves. In the opinion, the commission recognizes the committee enabling legislation contemplating voting members being individuals with expertise and interest in county conservation issues, which is the reason why there isn't a blanket prohibition. It's the reason why you can still be appointed to this committee, and the reason why, as a district for whom you're also a board member, can receive a grant, but it requires recusal. The commission also noted, however, that a member's judgment could be affected if he or she were called on a vote on a grant application in which they have a direct interest. Moreover, the public might well perceive favoritism in such circumstances, even if none actually exists. They pulled this part of the advisory opinion, but this advisory opinion also governs how we address active farmers who are also on the committee seeking grant funds from the committee and the department. Also requires recusal. I think we're pretty familiar with that. A disclosure of your interest as a farmer to apply for a conservation district program, and recusal from all discussion in matters leading up to the approval of that particular request for proposal. And then anytime that contract, if it were to be awarded, comes to the committee's attention, continued recusal. And that is all documented in the minutes of the state committee. Recusals aren't always the perfect remedy, because we've also experienced this. Things to consider. What if my recusal does not permit my board commission to reach a quorum? Well, that certainly can happen. Whether recusals pose an operational problem is not for the commission to determine. The commission has previously held that the determination of whether and when recusals reach an unacceptable level is for the state agency to make. So how do we remedy that, either in a district or the committee? If there are multiple farms or multiple district board members, often a discussion occurs and a decision is made to who may be able to apply at that given point in time. If more than a quorum of members all decide to do it and move forward in a given round, we will not be able to vote or act on that given round. So we've been able to manage that over the years. Good communication and discussion, and an earliest possible disclosure of interest to apply. We all know that recusals can have an impact on operational functions, and we really do try to minimize that impact. The risk is not recusing in order to maintain a quorum, which may mean the board members are subjecting themselves and the board to potential violations of, subjecting themselves to potential violations of Public Officer Law 74, and certainly subjecting that board to lose public trust. Now let's return to the standards of conduct in the Code of Ethics. Standard, I lost track if that's I or L, but anyway, the contracting for goods and services says that that your private business interests may not intersect with entities that are licensed or regulated by your state agency. In other words, you can't contract for work with a business you regulate. Example, you are a member of the Hospital Review and Planning Council of the Department of Health. Acme Hospital is regulated by your agency. You or business entities you are affiliated with are prohibited from selling goods or services to Acme Hospital. Okay, the last two standards lie at the heart of the Code of Ethics. Standard F and H are sometimes referred to as the integrity standards, and they set the public optics test for professional behavior. The two standards do not carry a monetary or civil penalty. However, the Commission is now empowered to recommend and refer for agency discipline, including suspension and termination for any violation of the Civil Service Law 107 and the Public Officers Law, including 74F and H. Standard F really focuses more on professional behavior. You must avoid situations that may create an appearance that you could be improperly influenced in the performance of your state duties. If it looks like you could be improperly influenced, that's enough to violate this standard. Standard H, you should always conduct yourself in such a way that it will not appear to a member of the public that you are involved in a form of misconduct and are violating the public's trust. Again, features the public optics test. Standard H, don't act in ways that give the appearance of misconduct. If it might look suspicious, don't do it. Our professional conduct directly contributes to the integrity of state service. We all play a role in improving the culture of ethics in New York State government. Remember, public service is a public trust, and we must all do our share to uphold the integrity of that service. Today's training is an important element in educating yourself about the ethics laws you are expected to uphold. Whenever you have questions about how the ethics laws may impact you, please reach out to your ethics officer or the commission for help. And if you see misconduct occurring, please report it. So now we're going to look at additional applications of Public Officer Law 74. Okay, thank you. Public Officers Law 74, which includes the reverse 2-year bar and negotiations of future employment. Let's start with a 2-year bar. This is the one that's often referred to as a revolving door provisions, designed to address the public perception that people enter the state workforce to personally enrich themselves using former private sector connections. Let's first explain what the reverse 2-year bar is. This affects former private sector employees who are entering state service. This rule may require you to recuse yourself from matters directly involving your former and current private business relationships. It prevents the appearance that you may give a preferential treatment to or be unduly influenced by these private interests. You may be required to recuse yourself for a cooling off period of 2 years. In cases where you are currently employed, you should always recuse yourself from matters involving your current employer. More information can be found in Advisory Opinions 9809 and 0704. Now let's look at the factors that would be considered to determine if recusals would be needed. Okay, reverse 2-year bar recusal consideration, Advisory Opinion 9411. This advisory opinion arose from questions by a board member regarding the boundaries of his service. These are the questions he sought guidance for. May a board member who had left a private employee, I can't read mine because it's, look at that.
Yeah.
May a board member who had left a private employer 1.5 years ago consider a grant proposal submitted by that former employer? If the board member ended representation of a client 6 months ago and does not currently conduct businesses with the client, is there a conflict if the board member acts on the former client's proposal? Okay. Wow. The commission concluded the board members would violate Public Officer Law 74, were he to vote on an application for grant money in the situations described. The board members' vote could raise suspicion among the public that the action constitute inappropriate behavior in violation of his or her trust. So to read the bullets here. Such presumption could be rebutted by looking at other factors, including whether the board member was in an employment relationship with the applicant, which implies daily oversight and control, or was in a consulting relationship, which suggests a more temporary connection. Whether the board member was an officer or senior official of the applicant, whether the board member or the applicant had a fiduciary responsibility with the other, whether the applicant is the actual former employer or business entity with which the board member had the relationship, or whether it is a related subsidiary or umbrella organization, and for how long that relationship existed. There are other considerations when you leave state service. That's okay. So another application of 74 is negotiation of future employment and involves restrictions that apply to both solicited and unsolicited job offers. Unsolicited and solicited job offers, sorry. All right, so as a state officer, there are restrictions on if and when you may negotiate future employment with an entity or individual that has a specific matter pending before you. If you receive an unsolicited job offer, or if you're interested in soliciting an employment opportunity, you may only pursue an employment opportunity after fully recusing yourself from the matter. If you want to pursue a job with an individual or entity that is a matter pending before you, you have to recuse yourself from the matter and notify your ethics officer. There's also an additional restriction on serving in certain political offices as a state officer. This slide goes through those restrictions on political outside activities. Policymakers, including unpaid per diem, commission committee members must remain nonpartisan by not serving as an officer in a political party or organization, member of a political party or committee. The agency you represent may have additional policies on conflicts of interest for outside activities. Next slide. Code of ethical conduct. According to regulations, the entity you serve on should have an additional code of ethics that addresses conflicts of interest and outside activities. Please consult with your agency ethics officer or general counsel for additional information on policies that may apply to you. The Little Hatch Act describes additional restrictions on political activity in the workplace. Next slide, please. The Little Hatch Act addresses political activity in the state workplace and puts rules in place about what can and cannot be done at work. Or in this case, when you're serving in an official capacity as a state committee voting member. Political activities in the workplace, state workplace. Those in state service must avoid all political activity in the workplace. The term political activity means doing something in active support of or opposition to a political party, political issues, candidate for partisan political office, or a partisan political group. Now let's look at some examples of what is prohibited. What the law says. Oh boy, I need to review the slide. The printing stopped working. Okay, I'm gonna just move this a little closer.
Scooch it.
Thank you. All right, you may not be questioned directly or indirectly about your political affiliation as a condition of employment. State offices may not be used for soliciting or collecting any political contributions. You cannot use your state position or authority to coerce, intimidate, or influence employees for any political purpose. If you're involved in hiring potential employees, you cannot ask questions regarding a candidate's political affiliation, political contributions, or how not get voted in any election. You also cannot dishonestly use or attempt to use your official authority or influence in exchange for political action on someone else's part. Okay, a few examples. Oh, I can drive now. There we go. In addition to the little hatch act, the Code of Ethics, Public Officers Law 74 also places restrictions on political activities. Here are some real-world examples that have been found in violation of Public Officers Law 74. No nominating petitions in the office. You cannot circulate a candidate's nominating petition within your state office. You can't use state resources to produce any political materials. You cannot use state email or political communications, state email for political communications, even if friends you know support your candidate. If you receive a political communication to your state email address in error, delete it and contact the candidate to give them your personal email address. Even forwarding a political email to your personal address is a violation because you have used the state's internet connection to distribute political materials. Okay, one of the central missions of the commission is to provide guidance on manners of state ethics. The purpose of this training was to give you greater awareness of your obligations under the ethics law. But if you have any questions, please contact your ethics officer or the commission. A link to the FDS system can be found at the commission website. And I want to thank all of you for your attention today. We will make sure that we get this information off to the commission so that you'll receive a certificate of attendance that documents that you have met your training obligation. We, of course, will also record it in the minutes for today. And it does say here, which I would say anyway, thank you all for your service to the people of the state of New York, specifically to conservation districts, conservation programming. Doesn't say, but I will say, and a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everyone. That concludes our training. Any questions? My pleasure. They added a few slides from the last time. But I do appreciate the real world example that governs our specific ethical conduct.
Can you hear us? Sorry.
What's that, Dale?
Can you hear us? Sorry. Okay. Wait, can we do a test real quick? I just want to switch microphones.
Oh,
We'll see if
I thought you were going to ask me to repeat all of that.
Can we do this again?
I guess I can stop sharing here. Bethany stepped out of the room for a minute, but hey, thank you to a few of you who stayed on for that as well. Dale, I think that's it. We are ready to adjourn the meeting unless we want to wait for Bethany. Can you hear me okay, Dale? Oh, he's working on something. There she is. We're done.
Yay! See, that microphone didn't work for that moment. All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you everyone for participating. Thank you, Brian, for the saved us having to drive who knows where to go at ethics training, and everyone have a very, 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 very Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. Wow, I wasn't expecting you guys to be done. You must have
Yeah, it wasn't
blown
even like a
through
wind
the
down. It
last-
goes from political activities to closing slide of thank you, and if there are any questions, contact.
There is one other thing. I would like to propose that we look into buying a portable system that we could take around to meetings, so we don't have to do this thing. And then these guys have been online researching it while we've been here. It's $1,000.
That's not bad. All right. Give us the info, whoever's researching it.
I think Ryan, are you still there? He had
Yeah,
sent something about the was it the OWL system?
Yeah, the Lake Champlain Basin program uses two of them at multiple meetings, and it's even better than our current setup because it'll focus in on whoever is presenting. We can utilize an existing screen here, so it not only would work here, but anywhere else we might need to go. So, yeah.
Yeah. Let's get two.
Okay, we will look into that. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I think it would make it, and it's really portable. You can take it around the state to different meetings. You ain't got to be, we're just here. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Everyone, thank you all, and I will see you next year.
Safe travels, Dale.
It's the first I heard that so far this season. Next year it is. All right, take care, everyone.
Yeah.
See everybody.
Bye.
Bye.